Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Hellbound Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Deacon Yuji. He's the one that found the card at the beach, for the soda business, and he's very suspicious of it. But obviously they get talked about another person who's got to got his decree at a convenience store, and they go to check on him. Basically, it's he tried to run, but he ended up getting caught. But it turns out he was told 5 or 6 days, and now he has this is his last day. So it's right, we don't have enough of a budget to make this a sacred situation, because I guess anytime there's decrees they're able to publicly let happen, they take money and make them into sacred places. But he's there's not enough in the budget to make this because they usually probably need a lot more heads up before they can really set that up. But it's so how are they going to handle this? So they're going to take him to the church itself, to the New Truth's headquarters, and just do it there and broadcast it that way. But it turns out this guy also has a card as well. So obviously he's put in front of everyone in New Truth, and also the video is played, and so he's put on display. His mom, his wife, his son are there, and they'd be you're a sinner, confess, because apparently he had a quote-unquote gambling addiction, or whatever the case may be they were blaming him for. But he was I'm not a sinner, mom, honey, look at me, I'm not a sinner, this isn't me. And he proceeds to be killed in front of everybody. And just the fact is your boy Jeongchil is all about the performance, and he's just "Ooh, you sinner, go to hell," and so he's just enjoying from the sidelines, and he's just "Ooh," it's just, and he gets along with the heads of the other, because I was curious how many people at the top know the truth. There are people in this organization, a lot of them, who full-heartedly believe everything, who believe in this cause, but there's a lot of people, I guess the higher-ups, because the ones later on when Jeongchil looks at the video that basically Yuji got from that guy. Basically, he confessed to getting the decree, and someone reached out to him, and they gave him a choice that they could make it so that his body's never found, so it never falls back on his family. And while he was in the process of trying to decide, I think they ended up catching him anyway, maybe, or maybe he turned himself over to New Truth. I don't remember what his reasoning for how he got, why they're here and why he's not helping them, why he's not getting their help. But either way, the name that comes up is Heijin, and obviously, your boy Jeongchil is kind of no, because he thought she was dead for sure. So it's yeah, this ghost has come back to haunt you 4 years later, and so obviously, he wants Yuji to take care of this. It's don't even bother getting the police. The fact of the matter is, we're already on the right side of things, so you should be able to do whatever you want to. And he kind of bestows upon him. He does this thing with his head, putting his head on his hand, and then slapping his head multiple times. And it's good, you have all the authority you need. But even later on, he's talking to one of the guys, maybe we should change that ceremony up. That ritual doesn't look. He's no, we'll work on it. I'll try and work on it. He's okay, I'll wait on you to do that. So everyone in the higher ups in that organization know the truth about, it's 100% BS. I wonder, I can only assume there are people that Jeongchil brought in, because it seemed Jinsu was the only one at the top. So Jeongchil seems he found kind of a board of directors of sorts to kind of, because the VIPs, I think they're people who believe in this. They're all the other sheep. I think everyone else that's with Jeongchil are kind of the wolves who know the truth, wolves who are in sheep clothing, whereas everyone else is just a sheep because they believe in all of this. So now it becomes a hunt to find, because Youngjae ended up looking into Soto and found out, obviously its name is very pertinent, because the name also, it would represented a church that would basically, it protected people from persecution or something like that. So the church would act as a safe haven, and that's kind of what it kind of does now. Ironically, they're kind of a safe haven from this actual church of sorts with new truth. So I think that's so fascinating. But he ended up finding out where getting Hyungjun's I guess like where he's teaching, but it turns out like Soto has people everywhere, so they even had people at his job keeping an eye on. So the moment he started acting weird, they got a heads up about it. So they fill him in on everything about like Jisoo and the whole like everything being a lie, that this whole thing isn't the sin thing that people make it out to be. Even bringing up that the people who are part, like, is it because it's like, isn't it dangerous to be a part of this type of organization? It's like everyone that's here has basically had someone they cared about, sent bound to hell, or they just have their own personal grudges. Like, it's like there's some connectivity in why they're a part of this whole operation, and so they're the only ones that can stand up, because even Jung Jae says, like, how do you go up against something like this? The new truth, pretty much half the people on this planet, half the people in the world belong to it. It's like, the thing is, like, they have a very particular way of, like, finding out about people, because the only people they're able to help are people who've had their decrees done publicly. Like, if it's been caught on camera and stuff like that, those are people they can reach out to. They look at the patterns, because certain people will look up stuff on the New Truth app. And it's like when those people start asking those questions, you're like, right, that's someone we got to reach out to. But with those who keep that stuff to themselves, you can't really do too much in that regard, So there is still stuff that slips under their regard, but more often than not, when it's public decree stuff, they're usually able to help with that. So, but and then Jung Jae ends up showing them the video, and even they're shocked because it's like, oh, they've never, because it seems like their baby is the first of its kind of ever being a baby to receive a decree. So they want to take him to see Heejin, and obviously they explain in full detail of it. Oh yeah, it's all baloney. Like, Jinsu did all of this, and it's like, why? And it's like, no, we have no idea. The only person who really knows the truth of his reasoning for doing it, I mean, they kind of nail it, like, but the only person who really heard his reasoning for it was Kyung-hoon, who he's the only one that heard Jinsu's actual reasoning for doing what he did, being like, oh, like, he wanted people to feel their fear. Because Hyejin kind of touches on it a little bit. It's like, right, he knew for 20 years. And I also think that's so fascinating, and no one's talked about the fact is the time frame has ranged so rapidly. Once again, why the hell did Jinsu get 20 years? But we also find out Hyungyun's daughter only got 10 seconds. I'm like, that's the big, like, that's a huge gap. Like, how do we, and because most seem to fall in between, like, because his Soyun and Jeonghae's son only had 3 days, where others have been like 5 or 6. So it's like, why they end this? Like, why is not everyone's getting like the 5 days? Like, once again, that still baffles. Like, why did that SOB get 20 years? It's almost like it was planned out, because like, oh, we knew those 20 years would give you what necessary to do it. It's almost seemed like that was all part of something or someone else's plan. Maybe not. Who knows? Like, the question is, like, has anyone else gotten like years to like know ahead of time of their death? I don't know. He seems like the largest time frame we've gotten so far that we're aware of, but obviously she talks about there's not much they can do to expose new truth, because like, you need actual evidence. But the thing is, she also tells Jeong Jae, like, your child will be okay, because one, either they will never make a public demonstration of your child because it contradicts their doctrine. Like, the fact is that they would either cover it up, like they'd either make it look like you killed your child, or they'll make it seem like the baby was never born. And it kind of fits into the narrative that I was bringing up before of like, right, so because how can a baby have sinned? Like, so that doesn't make any sense, and it contradicts what they say. And I had brought up, like, oh, the original sin type of mentality. And even they said, like, but they answered that immediately too by being like, no, that won't be applicable because original sin isn't a part of their doctrine. Like, once again, it got brought up in the first episode. There are holes in their doctrine to still kind of fit the narratives of what they want it to be. To be fair, Jinsu's had 20, like said, he had 20 years to manufacture this into what and manipulate it and have it interpreted the way he needed and wanted it to be interpreted. But there's still enough gaps in it that because there is no such thing as original sin in their doctrines, so they can't use the ideology of like, oh, like everyone's born with sin. It's like, no, you never made that clear. You've stated that the only way, the only people that die are sinners, specifically people if you can only sins that are committed by humans is kind of what it is. So like stuff like greed and stuff like that don't fall into that category because like once you cross those lines, then they can do what they want. But they left themselves an open enough room to just make it specific of like, oh, sins that were committed by humans. So that means they kind of going all in that. Young Jae's baby is the exception to that rule and could, once again, as I brought up, like destroy everything. And so, like I said, it's interesting that my questions about how you knew truth could cover it up were immediately answered in this episode. I love how that works out like that. But yeah, but it does present the opportunity. Like, well, how do we? You know, it's like, well, we still need proof. And you're like, are you asking him what I think here? And yeah, they are. Hyejin is asking, we need to have your baby's decree be demonstrated. And he's like, hell no. Like, he's like, I came here for help. The fact of the matter is you're just as bad as new truth. The fact of the matter is, it's like, at the end of the day, my baby is going to die. All I want to do is protect my family, and I can't. Because obviously they made it clear, like, this is just some supernatural thing that there's no fighting. It just is. It doesn't pick someone just because of sin. Because that ended up being a conversation that he had with Hyung-jun on the way there, because it's like, your baby didn't commit any sin. Because he was like, you know, if a baby committed sin, you know, like, we're going against this lie that the new truth has started. But even if this supernatural stuff, even these executioners, if they happen to be sent by God, we still have to go up against God if he's willing to do all this, including say that a baby is bound for hell, you know? So even if there ended to be some truth to what New Truth was saying, which once again we know it's complete and utter BS, even if there was some slight truth that this was some God-willing thing, then it's like, it's still, we'd have to go and challenge God, because it's like, what God would be, you know, say that a child is bound for hell, you know? So, but once again, Hyung Jae was not down with the plan and is leaving, and then that's when Hyung Jun brought up his story of like his daughter was signed for the decree. It's like she just randomly wanted to go to the ocean, and then they got the decree. Once again, 10 seconds. They didn't have time to process it. He's like, she looked at me asking the question, and those things came barreling down the road. They swerved off the road. They're crashing. Didn't mean anything. Those bastards didn't skip a beat. Moment they got to the car, they yanked her out, you know? And for him, he was like, on some level, the complicated thing is that he's like, he felt glad that no one was there in that moment, you know, because he didn't want it to be made into this spectacle moment. It was just like, it's just this heartbreaking moment of him holding what was left of his daughter, you know? So, and that's the complicated thing, because even Jeong Jae said it, like, I'm not here to save the world, but Hyejin is like, your baby is going to die anyway, but the fact of the matter is, I know it's sucky to say this, but your baby could be the key to ending their reign and kind of returning the world to some form of order. And it's like, you know, nobody's trying to like save the world. Everyone's just trying to look out, you know, it's just the crappy hands that everyone was dealt. And Hyung Jun told Jeong Jae about Hyejin's situation, about you know, she takes responsibility because she's the one that co-signed the broadcast. She couldn't stop Jungja's demonstration from being broadcast to the world, because that was the linchpin that set everything forward. That was what made it, that's what swayed the public more towards new truth, and it's like she blames herself for not being able to save. So, you know, especially the most recent guy that died on TV in this episode, that guy, she felt like she couldn't protect. That was the first one in a while she wasn't able to protect. And now she has a means of saving the world and potentially fixing everything with Zhang Jie's baby. But, you know, and she realizes what she's asking, but there is no other way around this. So, but they're saying, like, right, at the end of the day, it's your choice. We could either broadcast it or we can just keep it secret. Like, you just had that conversation. So he goes home, and So Yoon isn't even, you know, touching the baby, who's like, he's crying up a storm. Now, part of me was thinking, like, it's that thing of, like, how can, like, it's hard to, like, because, like, if I go over there and cuddle him and care for him, it's like, it's the hardest thing ever, because I'm not trying to blame him. I'm like, it's a sucky thing, because you know he's gonna die, and it's just, like, to get close to him and just know that, like, no matter what I do, I can ease my baby's pain just for him to end up in the painful situation, because everyone's seen what it looks like with those creatures. It is brutal. There's no, like, oh, like, they softly, it's like, no, they rip you to pieces and then they burn you in the most agonizing way. And it's just like, there's no peaceful way with that, you know? So for her, I think it's just from the perspective of just, like, I don't want to, you know, but, you know, when Zhang Jie ends up, you know, picking up the son, and she ends up talking a little bit about her family situation, about how her mom cheated on her dad and left when she was young. When her dad died, she called her mom up to ask her to come to the funeral. She was like, what I was going to do, I just was hoping, like, she's like, I imagined in my head that she would hold my hand. And yes, I'd be mad at her for a little bit, but then, like, she begged me for forgiveness, and then, like, at the very least, I would have her. But all she did was complain about, like, oh, I didn't get enough alimony. And she mainly showed up at this funeral just to get her cut of whatever it is that So Yoon was getting, like, whatever her father left for her. Like, her mom came to collect that. And for her, it's like, my mom didn't deserve to be a mom. She wasn't a good person. She was a terrible human being. And now it's just kind of like, why does my baby deserve this? You know, because she's like, I wanted my baby to grow up loved and being able to kind of just live a good life, and that's not possible. And then Zhang Jie ends up bringing up what was presented to him about, like, right, the choice that needs to be made. And So Yoon decides, like, no, like, she's like, I don't want our baby to be, like, publicly, like, you know. So it's like, right, if the choice is ours, like, the baby can be it could be a secret thing, but they're still up in the air at that time in the episode. And then at the same time that's all happening, Hyung Yu gets found out because Yuji, as well as the other deacon who's with the arrowheads, ended up sending him to one of Soto's people, like, threatening his wife. And he was willing to take the punishment, but the moment they start threatening his wife, that's when he gave up the name. They tracked him down. Like, everyone got Hyungjun, and then there's the other guy. They got the information from the one guy, and so they decided to kill Hyungjun. He was even saying, like, you can kill me, just listen first. Jinsu was a liar. Listen to me, and they just burned him alive. And the other guy got it too, because they proceed to hang both of their bodies with signs to be like, yep, this is who they are, right above, you know. And then they made a decree like, yeah, he was a liar. He went up against God. And once again, they put Hyejin on blast and be like, this lawyer lady, like, she's the one that's a part of Soto and everything. Which they rolled up at the spot she was hiding. She made sure to destroy all the tapes. So if there was anyone else, they were probably in the process of helping. It's like, I'm not going to help you find them. So destroying the evidence, and she took off running. I do like a lot of the, like, very, like, I don't know if that was it seemed like it was very, like, handheld movement. Once again, I'm not the cinematography nut, but I do notice that stuff. I know some behind the scenes production stuff just because of just different stuff I listen to and stuff like that. But I liked a lot of the camera movement with that. It was very, like, almost like handheld, like, perspective on things. She put in some work, dude. She didn't sit idly by in these past 4 years. It's like, no. She knuckled up, you know. And she got surrounded, but she still was like, she was kicking ass. I'm like, yeah. Cause she was like, no. Arrowheads ain't gonna catch me slipping again. It's like, I was just a lawyer before. It's like, no, I know it's do or die with this, so I was ready. And that Deacon grabbed her, and Yuji's like, oh, we got you. She tased home dude, like jump, kicked the other dude in the chest, bounced. I was like, yeah. I was like, please don't get caught, dude, because they're definitely going to finish you this time. They made a mistake of not killing you last time. I was like, please don't. But luckily, she got away. And so both of them watched the news and found out about what was happening. So, Hyung Jae, it's, he talked about like him and his wife hadn't decided, and Kiejin was like, wait, are you not with your wife? And he was like, no. It's like, you should be with them right now. Like, are you sure that they're home? And we see that she left, because it turns out she went to New Truth. I'm like, why, like, is she going to New Truth because she's thinking that they might be able to do, because that's the thing. Kiejin, it's like, right, they're going to try and cover that up because it contradicts everything. So I don't know what she's planning to do, like whether she's thinking like, not unless she made the decision on her own and she's going to try and have it all happen there. But like, once again, they're not going to let the cameras roll. So that's why I'm curious to see what happens, because she, maybe because she does still, like, maybe she does believe. Whereas like, Hyung Jae like always had his reservations about it anyway, but maybe like she has been a devout believer now, thinking with the situation as it is, like she's planning on doing this, turning to New Truth, because he did say like, oh, like they Soto wants to do it so that they can expose him. I'm curious to understand, like, we don't really get her insight on what she's planning. Like, maybe the plan is this way, my baby can die, but I want to be there, and this, because I know you guys won't publicize it. I like Soto would. Like, I don't want any other expectations. I just want to be here for my baby in this moment. Like, I don't know whether that's her making that unilateral decision alone, because she didn't inform Hyung Jae about it. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode, which is the season finale, how it all plays out. I'm super surprised we have not circled back to, like, once again, like any of the characters we were following before. Like, we just haven't, like I referenced before, Kyonhoon. Like, we haven't seen hide nor hair of him and his daughter since the end of episode 3. So, like, the chief or his partner, like, none of that. So that's why I'm surprised. I would have been so certain that would have popped back up. So, like, what happened to them in that 4-year time frame? I'm so curious. It's actually interesting. There was a line that actually skipped over in the episode I want to circle back to, because I think it's probably important, because I'm sure that's going to come full circle in some regards. Is that even Hyung Joon said that people will turn to us despite their beliefs and everything when the time comes. Like, nobody, like, everyone's death should be kind of a private thing. It shouldn't be like an event type of thing, because he's saying like even the chairman, that being Jeong Chil, would even come to them because he's like, yeah, I want mine to be private. I don't want it to be public, because even he knows like people would get super pissed if his death was super public. That's why Jinsu made his death private, like, set things up the way he did, because he knew the moment it'd bring everything crashing down, and obviously like his name would be tarnished, and just everything would come crashing down, so he'd want, Jeong Chil would want things to be private. So I think that might come full circle next episode. We'll have to wait and see how the season finale wraps everything up, but I'm very excited to find out where it all takes us. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.